national radio is, as I'm sure you're aware, has changed a lot over the years, for a start. And nowadays, they're even more streamlined. And as I'm sure you can see, like Radio 2 and Radio 1 and the BBCs and the Bowers, they all have quite, I wouldn't say strict, but they're, they have ways of broadcasting so either certain types of music, they're either a specific genre or they're a specific audience, or, they're all trying to do a certain thing.
Right.
At the end of the day, national radio has to cater to the masses in some way still. However, the different genres come into play, they are still catering to the broad audience.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to break, especially like an emerging artist, into national radio, it's not just as simple as having the contacts to take it to them and hoping a DJ loves that song and it will get slipped in, like when a rock band would email us at Total Rock Radio and we'd put it up for all the DJs to listen to, and if someone liked it, they were more than welcome to play it.
Right.
In a nutshell, they have, playlist policies where that has to be decided as a group of internal decision makers, whether it's playlist committee, a section of producers, a specific music team, and they all have like a voting system on what tracks are suitable for that show or that station as a whole. Some shows, in fact, quite a lot, do not play anything but playlisted tracks or already archived tracks that the stations have said, these are the tracks that you can play off of.
Right.
So obviously breaking a new artist into effectively a system where they're generally promoting already established, well-known acts is not just as simple as, here you are, here's the next Adele or Ed Sheeran or Metallica or whoever it is that you're trying to.
Interesting three choices there.
Pardon, sorry?
This is an interesting three choices off the top of your head.
I was just trying to think of some broad stream. Yeah, exactly. And it works from, like I said, you've got your Planet Rocks and you've got your Kerangs, and obviously their playlists are very different from your Radio 1.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying every station works exactly the same way, but the principle is that, they are catering to playing things that are either familiar to people or that people want to hear, and in a nutshell, things that do not make people turn the radio off, because that's what radio is, isn't it? Which we're trying to get people to tune in, to listen to either shows that either interest them or catering for a specific reason. So it's in my interest, the producer's interest, and the client's interest. It's you want to be on platforms that are best suited to you, really. First and foremost, there's no point me putting a pop band on Planet Rock, however well known they are. It's just the audience will not fit. So my job is not just finding places that are right for you as an artist. It's about building your profile up as an artist, as well as, it's not just as simple as come to me, I'll get you on the radio and you'll be played everywhere and you'll be an overnight success. That it really is not the case, unfortunately. I wish it was. I really do. Like radio, like I said, just changed, and any plugger, anyone that's been in radio, even musicians, they'll tell you how it used to be back in the 80s or whatever. I feel like I'm mocking that. I'm not. I don't have a right to. I'm not old enough. But we've all heard everyone say back in the day, haven't we?
For sure.
And it's completely changed. I work with someone who's seen all the eras. Nick, my boss, really, he has seen it change dramatically from when he first started, and he learned it off his dad. So his dad saw it even way back when. And every year there's chops and changes, and obviously the digital world has come into play now. Radio now have to keep up with things like Spotify and YouTube and podcasts. So again, it's same as everything else, coming down to streaming numbers. Radio have a job to do, to keep their numbers up, and finding new artists that they feel really fit into their remit persuading an entire network that this one artist fits into, their realm that's a long job. That is not something that you can just, normally do in one campaign. However much we like to think Ed Sheeran broke overnight.
No, they very rarely do they? Do you think, when it comes to a new band or an artist that wants to have their music played on the radio specifically, I mean, is there any point in trying to do it themselves these days, do you think? I mean, one of the things that
there's something to be said for it still, 100%.
Yeah, I definitely found that when I first wanted to start the journey, was even finding, because I just didn't think I could break through that kind of fourth wall, if you like, because I didn't know anybody at all in the industry. I didn't know a single person, so I hadn't got even advice I could call upon other than looking online and stuff. And Tom Robinson's site was really, really useful for that, the Fresh on the Net, because he kind of gave us inside track on how to even communicate with not the DJ, but connect with the producers. The DJ you're not going to get hold of because they are the most plagued, because they're the most obvious ones if you don't really know. So it was like, send a letter, a handwritten letter with a CD in it. This was like 10 years ago, so I'm sure that landscape's changed radically even then, over that period. But it was then I couldn't. Okay, that's fine. We can do all of that work, but who do we send it to? And the PR company I had back in the day, Supercat, they had names of producers to send them to, and that was really, really useful. But had I not had a PR company and paid them for the 4-month campaign that we did, I wouldn't have got that detail. So I guess what I'm saying to you, but to anybody watching this that is in a band that's just starting out, are there any kind of cracks where you can climb through even still these days? Or is it better to, and I know you're from a PR company, so I'm not trying to kind of say really, PR companies are the way forward, but is that the right route really, is to find a PR company?
Well, no, you're right. I mean, obviously there's a reason why we have a job. Otherwise, I wouldn't exist. And there's a fair few of us, and not just in radio, there's press.
Sure.
There are people that specialize in regional radio. We predominantly do national.
Yeah.
I do have, just over time, you build contacts up. We've got contacts in a few other areas, but you'll find someone that specializes in TV, for example, and right. different areas. And there's a reason why we have a job, and we're obviously still there is 100% reason, we're still necessary, 100%. Very rightly said, you came across Tom Robinson's platform. Perfect. He has been very renowned over the years for giving advice to emerging acts and things. And even the BBC as a whole, having the BBC uploader and the BBC introducing, which is purposely for artists to upload themselves, like that,
And they do listen to those as well. That
100%, exactly. And it's specifically there for artists to do themselves and not for a PR company. That is so that you have that opportunity to put your own name out there.
But I think the thing about I certainly found back then was, for all the research you could do, they wouldn't give you the name and the email address and definitely not the phone number of the person that you really need.
No, of course. And like I said, that partly one of the things we do is that we've already taken that time to gather those mass contact lists and things. Exactly. And not just have that contact in front of us. It's all very well having that email address in front of you. It's building those relationships up with certain people.
Well, you've got your integrity to consider as well, haven't you?
Exactly, and the reality is clients will come and go. So my relationships with the people I work with all the time, with multiple artists, they are what's important. And that's what we've spent time building up effectively. You're paying for our time to represent you. You're paying for us to talk about you to the people that we know within the industry and network on your behalf effectively. And like I said, those relationships, just like any other relationship, like any other friendship, that doesn't just happen with one email.
No, of course.
And like I said, we all went through lockdown. So PR's job got harder. We weren't having those face-to-face human being conversations in that same way. We were all having to, like I said, over infiltrate everyone on an email. And that's the other thing, like whether it's an artist or a PR doing the plugging themselves, you're not going to be the only one emailing these people. There are thousands,
thousands,
sometimes, you know, like I said, you know, there are people being, you know, will tweet them now, they'll send them an Instagram DM, they'll, you know, they're coming at artists and DJs and producers and decision makers from all angles effectively, and you have to keep up. So and like, that's why your relationships built up relationships need to stand out.
And what in your time so thus far, what have you seen that's kind of cut through all of that noise and got to the right person kind of the most effectively? What have you seen that's been like really, you know, unique as a way of getting the ear of the right person?
So that's such a hard question to answer. I'm totally honest. Like how long's a piece of string is sort of because at the end of the day, we are dealing with music, and we're also still dealing with humans that all have their own opinion.
Sure.
So there's also that massive factor that where, you know, it doesn't matter how excited I am or how amazing you think you are. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way for anyone. You know, I could love you, but if I take you to the head of music at whatever station and they go, I don't like this,
there's nothing you can do.
Exactly. They're entitled to have their opinion.
Of course, and I completely appreciate that. But when you've got like all the kind of avenues that you've alluded to, whether it's DMing or emailing or sending a letter or whatever else, or using a PR company to do some of the heavy lifting for you, what have you ever seen something that's gone, that's a really kind of unique way of being able to, you know, because there's things like when I was right at the very beginning, I was like, how can I get my CD, my single, in front of, I don't know, Chris Hawkins, let's say, back in the day? How because emailing isn't going to work because he doesn't know who I am, and I was probably trying to email him rather than the producer, so I was that green. Is it that you stand outside, you know, broadcast house waiting for them to turn up and you ram a CD in there, or do you send them a box of donuts? Or, I mean, this is all on the basis that if they heard it, they'd like it, obviously. But so
there have been so many different ways that have sometimes worked, sometimes backfired. Again, it's like there's no set, and again, you're dealing with humans. You know, what you say, for instance, you did go and stand outside broadcasting house and you waited with a box of donuts.
Yeah.
Some DJs or producers might think that is absolutely blooming hilarious, think well done, really innovative, and love it, and really be like, remember you. There is also that chance that you could really piss someone off and verge into that, like, well, you're just stalking and harassing me now.
Exactly.
Because you just waited outside my place of work.
Always.
And if you did that for anyone else in any other industry, you'd be like, you're kind of weird, mate.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
And if you also have to consider, and this again, I'm not being harsh, you have to consider, like, if you as an artist have brought other people in to represent you, your behavior, you're all starting to link back into an industry that are fairly incestuous in that sense of we all know each other. It's actually not that massive. We've all talk, you know.
Yeah, I've definitely found that now that I have got through the door a little bit and realizing, you know, I think it was something I've spoken to from a magazine. He said, we're all from the same parish, and I never really heard it kind of articulated that way, but it very much is, isn't it? So, and especially with writers for magazines, they may write for like all of them. I mean, there's some that I've dealt with now that write for all the big mags.
Exactly. So, and you know, and again, not even genre specific. I'll have some that write for the metal magazines as well as the live pop stuff. And
because our tastes are as eclectic as exactly.
And so you've got so many different factors, and a lot of PR in general comes down to the fact that it is a people game. And like I said, so the more you know these people, the more actual relationships that you have, that's what tends to give you that inside, like, well, I know how to, just from a basic point, I know how to handle that person. I know how that person likes to be contacted. I know how this person likes to receive their music. You know, certain stations only, you know, they will only accept WAVs. For
we can get
example,
hot on the collar about that kind of stuff as well. I know.
You know, exactly. So you know, and again, certain amount of information. I mean, even if you wanted to start small, and you want to do your own, you do want to do your own PR, especially as an emerging artist, like you're just getting your name out there. And so you, let's say you start with like local, community and regional stations. A lot of them, especially if they are like a local community station, they have information on their websites. It will say, here's a form to send us your music, or it will always say, send an email and please don't make it Spotify link because we can't download it from there. Please make it a WAV in a downloadable form. Again, this is all things that, again, like things have changed and you have, yes, it's almost harder, but the information is more readily available with certain things. Yes, of course, they're not just going to give everyone's work email address out online to everyone, because again, would you do that in any other job? Just have it? No, you wouldn't. You know, it'd be on the bottom of your email signature and whatever, and that's once you've already started a relationship with someone, then they've got their, you know, your personal details in front of them. So again, you know, part of when you pay us to do a campaign, it's that trust that we have actual relationships with these people. So and again, these don't take over, you know, they don't just happen overnight. And if I'm taking on an well-work artists from, again, all different ranges, some of them are major labels, some of them are independent DIY, some of them are from England, some of them are from America, you know, really there is no barriers as such. You know, we will consider, at least have a conversation with anyone and see if we can help you or think we can do something for you. But we can't do everything just in one week. It just doesn't, you know, like everything takes time, like getting your music out to all of the contacts, that takes time. People might be on holiday, people might have a dep, people, you know, they might be fully booked for a few weeks, in which case I want to keep that conversation going so that once you've got a free gap, you're calling me, not anyone else. You know, it's taught me patience, this job as well. If nothing else, it teaches you patience. And
I get that.
I'm sure as someone who's done a fair amount of work, you know, himself, you know the same, like you can be as eager as you like, but if you're not the decision maker, you can't force people to get back to you or whatever it is. What
I wanted to say was one of the things that I found at the beginning was I acknowledged that ideally I recorded with a producer in a recording studio of some repute, if you like. That would be a good start. And even doing by having, say, recording at Rockfield, it was something that could be added to the PR. So one of the things that I kind of understood quite quickly was that, especially with magazines, they're pretty all across the board, really, they want a story of some sort. So just saying
100%.
I'm from Burton and I'm a band and I'm metal, you know, isn't going to light any. It might do if you were the only person saying that, but then you'll have a tranche of other people that have done their research a bit harder and gone, actually, we need to say something a bit more interesting than that. And I certainly found that because I hadn't got anything particularly interesting to say, I felt at the time, being able to say I was recording with Brine and Rockfield, I mean, I milked that to death for Otto, because people went, oh, Rockfield. And all of a sudden, but because we'd paid for that time, it kind of added a little bit of credibility to a story that didn't really have any substance to it. So,
but no, you're totally right. Having a story is a massive thing, like I said, and especially in today's age, like I said, we've all got social media. We can all self-promote ourselves, whatever we're doing, like the whole influencer thing. Like, you know, let's be fair, people have become famous for doing sweet FA, like, and but they promote themselves well, so it's, you know, it's something. So, you know, there is, everyone and their grandma has effectively could turn around and go, I've written the best new song. Here it is. You know, please take notice.
Right about me.
You know, absolutely everyone's going to go, well, great. Like I said, I've got 300 of you in front of me. So,
and only a finite amount of time to listen as well. And that's the thing, isn't it? Really, just just listening to all of the music takes a really long time because you want to give it more than a couple of seconds.
So that's a very good one. I feel like people will find this interesting. So the best bit of advice I can always give you and not being a musician, so please, please, I don't want hate mail. But from a radio perspective, a radio edit is always necessary in the sense of it has under 3 minutes 30 really. But first of all, do not have, however amazing your drummer is, I don't want a 4-minute drum solo in that radio edit. Like that's not going to wash.
Yeah.
Do not make my intro super long because, like you said, they've got a lot of songs to get through.
Yeah.
And sometimes they will only listen to the first minute and a half.
Wow, that long? I thought it'd be less than that, actually.
Well, it sounds, if by the first 30 seconds, people are, they might turn it off earlier. That again, I'm not in a playlist meeting, or I'm not actually physically in a decision maker meeting always. So you have to think, what if someone turned on the radio and heard just a bit of the song or that start of the song? Would they want to leave it on, or would they or would they go, oh no, I'm going to switch channel?
Yeah.
So your chorus also, like, golden rule was always used to be like, make sure your chorus comes in by like 50 seconds, because again, if they do only listen to that first minute and a half, you want an intro, a verse, a bridge and a chorus, and then maybe like at least something that shows how the rest of the song is gonna.
I definitely found that, because you suggested that with Jalapenos, and I thought, well, yeah, it's quite a long song anyway, but I wonder how Nick will be able to accomplish it. And he trimmed it down and knocked it down to 3 minutes, and he did get to the point quite quickly. And I really liked the radio edit as a result. And I kind of could hear these like voices whispering, oh, well, you're compromising the song, and this is not what they're going to be getting, and they're going to get that, and it's going to be half as good as the actual one.
This is why I said I didn't want to hate mail from any.
But the thing is, once you do it, because it's the right thing to do, and you have to listen, because if you don't listen, it just slows your progress anyway. It did sound, and I really like it. So I think you do need to listen to people in the industry, even if you think you know better. And I didn't think I knew better. I was like, yeah, if that's what you think, Whitney, let's do that, fine. But you do have to listen to the advice of people that have been around for a while. I think the other thing I wanted to say to you as well is, prior to in the initial journey of recognizing, A, I needed to record somewhere, and B, I would need somebody in PR to help me. I kind of acknowledged that though I needed to kind of budget for those two costs if I was going to get anywhere with the album. And finding a PR company was really tough, I found, because even though, you said there's loads of Instagram accounts with PR companies on there, there's loads of websites with PR companies where they invite you to submit your tracks. I wasn't getting anything back. I mean, I was really, really struggling. And I think I must have spent 2 weeks trying. I mean, not many, I said, but maybe 20 or 30 of different ones worldwide, and saying, this is what I'm doing. But again, I didn't have a story. I hadn't recorded the album yet. It was just kind of just starting the journey. And in the end, out of frustration, I don't really use Twitter much, but I put out on Twitter, can anybody recommend a PR company that can support us as a DIY? And a band called Crushing Blows that were based in Burton messaged and said, I've been dealing with this guy and he's amazing. And he did have an email address, and I did contact him, and he did get back, and we worked together. But my point is, I suppose, is, it's almost like having to wind back from, you're trying to figure out how to get over one wall, but there's actually another one before that you need to consider as well, which is finding a PR company that's happy to work with you. I mean, have you got, as far as, if I was Kitten Pyramid 2013 and I was knocking on the door of Instinctive PR, let's say, I mean, how should I have been presenting myself for you to go, these guys are worth a go?
In 2013,
yeah, maybe that's a bad example. Now,
I was going to say I wasn't in PR when if I'm honest.
Yeah, now.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll be honest. You actually approached it perfectly, if I'm honest. you presented, like I said, you presented me with assets that you, you know, you already had, you'd, like I said, you've done enough of the work yourself to show that, like, okay, you've built up some kind of base, you've got a team together, you've got an artwork, you've got, you know, a press release together, and you've got, like you said, you've got a story. At the end of the day, exactly like I said before, you are still dealing with people. PR, that, you know, PRs are run by people. And you've just got to find someone, again, that like either like gets you or understands what you're trying to do, or the message that your story is trying to put across.
But to have one in the first place, that's key, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, there's, some will argue that, especially again in today's like climate with the digital world and social media and streaming and everything, if you are a band, do it DIY to begin with, and basically see how far you can get on your own. And at that point, when you get to a point where, you know, you feel like you can't do much else, then you are welcome, you know, that at that point, that's maybe when you would start engaging someone.
But you think that you've got your song recorder or album recorded, and you've got some artwork, maybe you've got a story together, but probably not. You're just going, we're a Burton band and we play metal, and you know, but we're so good that's enough, and it's not, I don't think.
Oh, yes, that's what you were saying about getting,
and then you take it to, and then you go, right, let's start hitting the local radio and that kind of stuff, and you probably will get, because the radio stations locally are very supportive generally anyway, so you'll get to that point there, and you can do loads of that. You can do 2 years of that. But then you want to get a bit further down the track, because if you can get on radio, then chances are you might be able to get in the mags and that kind of stuff, and online.
And exactly right. Like target, you know, everyone's got a local station or a local community or a local support network that they can, you know what, as well, and tap into.
The thing about, from personal experience, I always felt like that was like, do I really want to do like hospital or community radio, really? Because it's all the guys that talk and that kind of stuff. But actually, it's a really good, because the first time I ever went on the radio was, I think it was Stoke Radio or something. It wasn't a BBC, it was just an independent radio station. I was bricking it, and I was talking rubbish, and I was saying more rooms than I do even now, and I was just crap, essentially. So I think you can use is a strong term, but you could certainly rehearse your story, rehearse how you come across, rehearse, because people, I mean, the first time I did it, they said, well, so what's Kitten Pyramid about then? What's the name about? And I went, and I hadn't even thought that anybody would be, well, probably interested for a start. That was a unique experience. But so for the first couple, I just gave these rambling explanations of what Kitten Pyramid was, and I could see them kind of gradually glaze over, and I think next time I must crack this. But the point I'm trying to get to you, and I'm doing it really badly, is you think the next stage is big radio station. Six Music is the holy grail for, you know, a DIY indie band, let's say.
Yeah.
But it isn't. It's finding a PR company. You can find recording studios and producers. I don't think that's quite as tough a job. I don't think so anyway. But I think finding a PR company is quite tough. You obviously have to find. You can't just pick any old PR company. You've got to find one that's genre specific, and find other like-minded bands, I guess, that so they understand what you're all about. But you talked about it quite quickly, and I think it's really important to kind of almost list what they should present to you for you to go, actually, I think that wouldn't be a waste of our time. Because the thing about it is you could say yes to anybody, but then you'd have to do such a lot of work for them potentially, and their expectations are going to be so mega high, because like £1,000 for a 4 or 5 piece band, let's say, that isn't a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, but to them it really is. It's like they're like first generation investors in things they've never paid for before, so their expectations are mega high, and they're always going to be disappointed because they're brand new anyway. Unless they're the next Oasis that comes out, then it's not going to happen. So sorry, this is taking a long while, but what would you expect to see? What things would you like to see and hear from a brand new indie band that wants to get on Six Music, let's say?
So, like I said, I want to see that you've put some time and effort into research. And like, if you've come to me and I said, yeah, if you are coming to national radio, like at the end of the day, you are playing with the big boys, you know, you want to put yourself, just take a look at the playlist for Radio 1 and Radio 2, for example, and Heart and Capital.
Yeah.
And they, you know, they're major artists, a lot of them. So, you know, you want to be up in a playlist meeting alongside Ed Sheeran or whoever it is, then, you know, you've got to play the game. So take some time, just first of all, researching the standard of quality that you need to present to a PR company. So make sure make sure your press release is grammar checked and spell checked and presented. You'd be surprised.
No,
you're laughing, but you know, because there's no way a label would send me a press release that didn't have punctuation in, or hadn't been grammatically checked, or hadn't been proofread.
Well, press releases themselves have a very generic form, don't they? Which I didn't know back in the day. So it can be a Word document, and it just needs the heading, specifically an image of the album.
Again, you type into Google press release example, like a million come up. You know, again, it's just using your head. And I want to see that you've already done that. You know, because if you've not, then you're not ready to jump into this game at all, if I'm honest.
Yeah, that's fair.
Again, artwork, or, you know, your pictures, like, they need to be professional standard. You know, they can't just be an iPhone selfie that you've edited on, I don't know, can't even remember, like PixApp or something, like, I don't know, you know, something on your phone, like that, you know. And it can't be like your holiday bikini shot. Like, there's just again, look at what, again, I keep using her, but like, just look at it like an Adele would use, like, as she's used self-portraiture as you know, her album art before. Look at the standard, like, you've used like painting and artwork, but again, it's like it's completely different, but it was professionally presented with your logo on, and, you know, it was in the right dimensions, and it was clearly done, it wasn't pixelated. So make sure what you're presenting to that PR company is the standard that you would be happy having sent out about you from someone else. Yeah. Because that's what's going to be representing you. If you're a DIY band, then this does fall onto you. This is your, that it's your job effectively. So if you don't have a management, and I'm not saying that's anyone's fault that you don't have a manager, some people have chosen to be self-managed, but then you have to research what that entails if you're taking on that job. So presenting to your PR company, whatever you're presenting to them, that needs to be of a certain standard. And again, there's ways of you finding out about all of that online. So that would be the first one. I want to see that.
I think a lot of people don't know that, though. I didn't know that. I suppose the thing about it is you don't know. You know, PR is quite a broad term, and what that includes, because, you know, some people think that just means press release, and then you just have to write something about it. But then it's a bit much more than that. And where do you? Sorry, then this might be a bit of a tangent, but I need to ask you this. But where does a plugger sit in a PR company? Is it generally that somebody inside the PR company is the plugger, or do pluggers work as independent?
A plugger, I think, has just become almost like a industry nickname for radio PR, effectively.
Okay, all right.
So so like where I'm radio, like I said, there's press in terms of like written tabloid, you know, online blogs, magazines. There'll be TV, there's, you know, different elements. So plugger just tends to, I think, has become like just a bit of a nickname effectively for radio PR, effectively. Probably because we're just plugging things down people's throat all the time. I do joke that we are like the hated salespeople of the industry. So I'm sure that our audience will love that that's how I refer to myself. It's not going to do me any favors, but
no, but I suppose at the end of the day, though, so long as you sustain your own integrity and you don't try and plug something you don't actually have any kind of connection with, and you don't really think is any good, then there's nothing wrong with, you know, people don't mind being sold to if it's something that they're interested in. Surely it's only if you go, look, you've got to hear this band and they're absolutely dire, but it happens to be a family member and they've given you 10 grand for it, and then you're like, oh yeah, we'll give them a go, because everybody's integrity is compromised then. So you know, as much as you can kind of be modest about being a plague to the producers, and your reputation is just as much as at stake as theirs for playing in the first place.
So again, like doing, you know, like I said, there is, if you as a band can come to me and go like, this is what we've done ourselves before, we've had a comment from this person, we managed to get it to this person, we got a spot play here, or like you said, like BBC Introducing have already picked us up, or you know, my local station have already done this with us a few times, so now I want to see if we can, again, it's like, and that's quite common, like again, as a band, if you can't go to a PR person and sell yourself to a press company, how am I meant to sell you?
You're going to struggle, aren't you? Yeah.
Because if you can't sell yourself and it's your band that you think are amazing, again, how is anyone going to sell you? So again, that just comes from you taking, like you said, you taking that time to know how to present yourself, and that's also your band members. Like, you know, how do you present yourself online? How do they, you know, is the image you're putting out there the one that you want attached to the band? Is, you know, and things like, you know, always, it's very PR-y, but things that are always very useful are, you know, have you done anything for charity? You know, have you got any affiliations, or do you feel particularly strongly about something that's happening at the moment? Like, you know, topical. You know, radio always want topical discussions. So if a band can converse themselves on what's going on around them, then again, that also makes my job and a lot easier.
I definitely found that with mental health with the first album, and that wasn't contrived. I didn't think, oh, this is some juicy topical stuff I can sew into the project. It just happened to be that a lot of the songs were underpinned by that subject. And it really surprised me when it became a like kind of a lead topic of discussion when the Guardian picked it up, and they went round with us on the tour, and Laura Barnett, you know, the writer, joined us for a few days, and it was all, I think, if it's really difficult because on the one hand, I mean, I did have some criticism back in the day that I was kind of taking advantage of the fact of this subject to further my kind of artistic pursuits, if you like, but it wasn't. It was just, that's what I was talking about, and I didn't know that back then that would set things alight over there. But when I was doing it, it was like, well, the only reason that the Guardian's really interested in you is because of that stuff that you were doing, and I think that was partly true. But I'm just glad it wasn't contrived. I think that's really important. And then knowing that this time around, it's kind of like, right, I'm really passionate about, you know, not eating meat, and I'm discovering it's not good for the environment. And there's a part of me going, that will work, you know, as a story. And it's like, but now it is contrived. So I actually do know from firsthand experience that this will help. But I guess so long as that isn't the initial motive, it's fine. I think it's just when somebody goes, right, well, what's the topic of discussion at the moment? You know, Ukraine is being attacked by Russia, so I'm suddenly giving a massive fan of blah, blah, because that would be vile, and you wouldn't be allowed to have any.
I was going to say, it's that fine line between, yes, having a PR story to run with, but knowing what is sometimes appropriate, or knowing what people want to talk about. And also, it still has to be true to you as an artist. I don't want you to brush up on something that you don't actually care about. Like, that's not what I want at all. But if we can find another fellow DJ or someone that cares about that same thing, then straight away, that's amazing. I mean, I love my job because I like putting people together and seeing if they can create something amazing out of being put together. So, you know, when you do find an artist for a radio show or a DJ that sort of just magically have this like little bond, it's such a wonderful feeling. It really is. But like I said, I can't predict, and however good my relationships are with people, I don't necessarily know every single detail about them.
Of course.
So as long as I see something of value in you and your work, like, and you really, you know, and you understand from the word go that I cannot guarantee you anything, because that's not how PR works.
No.
And like I said, when you're going up into, like, especially national, you are playing a very, very big game with a lot of very experienced people. If you look at my radio contacts as a whole, it's insane. But actually, if you break down who specifically works for which band or which artist, actually, you know, that sometimes that just takes time, like filtering through who you're right for.
Yeah.
I might take on a classical artist, and I might not have worked a classical artist actually in a year. So I have to go back and maybe even reintroduce myself to new contacts. Or, you know, again, there's so many factors involved in when you get into like promoting music. There are so many arms and legs and moving parts. And it's partly why, again, I have a job and why we do this, because actually
there's no way you'd be able to know, is there?
I was going to say, not every band could physically do absolutely every single part of it themselves. And either whether it's just because of resources or time or, you know, again, a million factors. The biggest bit of advice I can get is just, you just got to keep going and keep trying effectively. And it's the same in my job. Like, I'll have days where it's like hitting my head against a brick wall, thinking, why is no one like listening to this? It is great for them. Like, I know it's great for that show. Sometimes you just got to keep battering on at them, and it can be hard work. It is hard work, but
I think that's the other thing that a PR company will bring to the table as well, is timings on everything. So when a good time is to release, how much time to give yourself in prep, and all that kind of stuff as well. So, but like you say, a lot of that kind of information, well, you'd get that from a PR company if they wanted to work with you anyway, and that's one of the benefits.
Yeah, and also,
I'm going to release it in 2 weeks' time because Spotify it'll be up by then. It's like, that's just not enough time, and
things will, exactly. So, like I said, you know, like, so radio aren't going to entertain it if the song is not actually released, because if it can't be Shazammed nowadays, how can anyone tweet, I love this new song by so and so, if that song isn't out there? So, but again, sounds awful, this is all online as well. This is the sort of stuff that, again, nowadays, like, and it's not all about having X amount of follows before you come to me. It's like I said, I think it's more about putting that work and that effort in before you talk to that's not just me as a PR person, that's anyone. If you as a band or an artist are approaching someone and talking to them about yourself and trying to promote yourself, you just be mindful about what you're putting out there, and how you're representing yourself. Like I said, whether that's, you know, down to your Instagram posts, down to the emails you send out and the press release that you've written or put together. And I get it, like, so I'm dyslexic, so actually I've tried very hard to master like how to make sure my emails are just clear, hopefully for everyone, and well written, but it's taken me time to make sure, like, and really sort of get my head around how that needs to be done. And it's paid off for me, because I know that actually generally my emails are pretty good. So, you know, and like I said, I am dyslexic, so I just make sure, like, I have spell check on absolutely every app I have. I have like the most amazing spell check and grammar checker to make sure, and I'll Google words and make sure, like, and I have get my like digital dictionary up, and you know, I just take that time, and if it's a really important email, I'll get someone else to look over it. And
I think that's the thing, though, really, because, you know, music and creativity is supposed to be one sort of thing. It's not very cool to be talking about, you know, structure emails nice and have all your graphic assets in place, because it's all very, it feels like it's the flip side to creativity, and it's almost a corporate kind of vibe, and it kind of does take the romantic side of it out, but it is so important.
I think people forget that, because especially the rock and roll side of it, it's like, well, actually it's still a business, and you still have and professionalism is still expected. So, you know, whether I'm talking about inviting everyone to, you know, like, so if you were organizing a piss up, you'd still have that organization level to get everyone there, right?
Exactly, that's true. That's a good analogy, actually. That is a good analogy. And I mean, we were going to talk for half an hour, so we've that's not really worked, but I think
we'll be doing some editing then, I'm sure.
I think so, but I to summarize it all, I do think what you're saying is is of real value. I think anybody that is taking themselves seriously and does want to do something with their music other than, you know, just within their friend circle and wanting to get some exposure, then listening to some of this advice I think would be really useful. It isn't an exact science for sure, but basic stuff of just simply talking to a PR company, that's hard in its own right, never mind the journey after that. So I'm really grateful that you've given me the time to talk about it.
Thank you very much for having me. Hopefully someone out there finds it of use.
Well, I don't know why you'd be surprised that somebody want to talk to a PR person, because to me that seems blindingly obvious. That, you know, I mean, I didn't do this initially with
my job is putting other people on the radio. Yeah. Like, no one wants to talk to me. Do you know what I mean? I put other people on there.
But no, thank you. I really appreciate that, and I'll get this up as soon as possible. So yeah, I'll see you soon.
Pleasure, my love. Lovely to chat as always.